Hi, this is Phil Voker, and I want to welcome you to my seminar on ROI or Return on Investment in Instructional Design. I'm taking a class right now at Liberty University, and I'm in Education 633, and that's why I created this project. First of all, I want to let you know that ROI or Return on Investment has been used for centuries with businesses, and it's a way to compare expenses and your end gains. And so you probably heard of the term return on investment before, but it's just more recently been seen as a tool for education. And here's a quote from Reeser and Dempsey for 2018. It says, "As the need for greater accountability in learning, demonstrated effectiveness and value increases, ROI is becoming an accepted way to measure the impact and return on investment in all kinds of programs." When I looked at the ROI formula, it reminded me of a formula that I teach to my chemistry students in high school. When we do measurement in chemistry, we always talk about the percentage error. And so there's an accepted value or a precise value. Let's say if there was some salt mixed up with this little dish of different types of substances, and the accepted value or the exact value was 3 grams. And when the students separated out and they got 2.5 grams, that would be the experimental value. And so they could use this percentage error formula that I'm showing you right here to figure out how far off they would be when it came to in measuring the salt in the mixture. Well, that's very similar to what we see when we have return on investment calculation, because we have the program benefits minus the program costs divided by the program costs, and then you multiply by 100. If you get a positive number, then that means that you have a good return on investment or positive return on investment. If you get a negative percentage, that means that your investment is not paying off like it should. Well, here's an example of an ROI in the business world. I was thinking about if you had a company training their staff on software and development analysis. And by the way, this comes from Devon and Stefanik, 2021. If the company could show that the training had value and that customers were more satisfied, that profits were being made, then they could say that that training that they gave to their staff would be of benefit, and that would be a positive return on their investment. When you look at ROI, you have to see that it's an ultimate measure of accountability, according to Reiser and Dempsey, 2018. And in addition to the ROI percentage that I went over, there's a 5-level framework that I'm going to be sharing with you to evaluate the ROI. First of all, we have level 1. That's called the reaction and planned action data. When we look at level 1, we look at the reactions to the program, views on convenience or ease of use. Was the program relevant, and would participants recommend that program to others? When we get to level 2, we call that learning data. And some of the aspects of that are, has their level of confidence improved when the participants gain new skills? Did they gain knowledge of what it takes to be successful? And then do they plan to apply their new skills to the job? That directly leads into level 3, which is application and implementation data. Can professionals apply their new skills to the job? Can participants use acquired knowledge from the program? And what's keeping them from applying the new skills? That takes us to level 4, and that asks the question about business impact data. Did the knowledge acquired impact key areas that they were supposed to, like new accounts, customer complaints, absenteeism, and so on? And all these come from Reiser and Dempsey, 2018. Finally, we come to level 5, and that just goes back to the formula I shared earlier. If the percentage is positive when you calculate the return on investment, then you know that you're doing well. If it's negative, then you're not getting the return on your investment, and you need to look and see how you can change that. As a classroom teacher, I give formative assessments a lot. And formative assessments aren't a formal assessment. It's just something you give frequently. It could be as formal as a quiz or as informal as just a teacher observation or an exit or entry task. Summative evaluations are a little bit more detailed because they're typically given at the end of a unit or at the end of the course. You might see a summative assessment that you give in your classroom after you finish a unit. Say when I do a unit on chemistry and measurement, I would give a summative assessment. And then you could consider end of the year state assessments as summative assessments too. And finally, confirmative evaluations are ones that, as the name implies, they're done after summative evaluations, and you're seeing months, years later, the instruction is still effective. This information is from Devon and Stefanik, 2021. So I'm going to give you an example of ROI in the instructional design world. And looking at formative assessment, let's say if a faculty sends course materials back daily to the instructional designers to look at alignment between the objectives, activities, and assessments, that would be an example of a formative assessment because it happens frequently and it's something that is done in a more informal way. And that's from Devon and Stefanik, 2021. An example of a summative assessment: at the end of the course, the instructional designers are sent the courses that have some issues, and then they look at maybe the issues are testing or student engagement. And then the people from the ID look at the feedback from instructors and students. Then they look at the course, reanalyze it, and see what the issues are. That would be more summative because it would happen at the end of the course and it's more detailed. Again, this also comes from Devon and Stefanik, 2021. Here's an example of ROI in education also. This comes from Thomas et al. 2016. These group of researchers did a study with diverse students to see if a one-day seminar would be better to introduce the concepts or careers in STEM, or if they should have a 2 or 3 day seminar. And so they were able to use ROI model to compare the costs and outcomes, and they determined that the single-day seminar would be more cost-effective. So there you go, ROI in action. Here are my references. Thank you for coming to my seminar today, and I hope you learned some more about ROI and how it relates to instructional design.